This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm sharing with you some interesting and hopefully useful articles that I've been reading lately. And today I'm sharing with you probably the only article that I'm featuring this week that I actually hated. I hated it. I don't want to throw shade on the author, but I don't like the title. I don't like much of the analysis. There's not much to like about it. The title's a bit clickbait. It says, keep in mind, this is an article written for financial advisors. So it's published in famag.com, which is a financial advisor industry publication. So it says, your client's 401k will be gone within a decade. So right there, we have a clickbait title because there is no way I'm not clicking on that title. I want to see what they mean by that. Here's what the author suggests here. She says, your 401k will be gone in 10 years tops. Not the money, thank goodness. Americans have trillions of dollars in these accounts, and there's an entire industry built around them. But she says the plans themselves. And the reasoning here is that there's been a push in more recent years to get rid of the 401k and the tax benefits that come with it, because the federal government, as they get increasingly desperate for new sources of revenue, there's this tax deferral. So any money that you put in your 401k, you don't pay taxes on that income. Employers also get a deduction when they make matching contributions and other employer contributions. She says that there are good policy reasons to end it. That's where we begin to differ. When I was making notes and writing some comments as I was reading this, I said, what? What would be a good policy reason for ending the 401k? To create more dependence on entitlements like Social Security? Because here's the thing, without a powerful tax incentive to do so, or a powerful future tax incentive like exists with a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, Americans are not wired to save money. And you look at the statistics, Americans are woefully undersaving for retirement. 40% of Americans don't have more than like $400 in their bank account to cover an emergency. Part of the push for automatic IRAs, state-sponsored plans for these types of accounts in recent years, has been to address a lack of retirement savings. So even when a plan or a company or some business or whoever you work for, even if you do have the ability to save in a retirement account and get some tax benefits for doing so, a lot of people don't save in them or save as much as they should. And a lot of people still just don't have access to these types of plans. So getting rid of them is not going to make Americans financially stable. And we need that. We need retirement accounts because we need Americans. It's good for the economy. It's good for the long-term financial health. It's good for Americans to be less dependent on programs like Social Security, which are going broke as I speak. So I have some issues with that assertion that there are good policy reasons to end it. She does say that there is some consensus on both the right and the left. She says neither conservatives nor liberals are particular fans of tax advantage retirement accounts, as savers appear to be indifferent to them. Really? Are they indifferent to them? No. A big part of why Americans haven't saved as much is because a lot of companies still don't offer them. Americans are not indifferent to them. They utilize them. And the ones that do are obviously better off. They have retirement savings. They have flexibility. They have more financial stability, control. Their biggest asset may not be their house, which is an illiquid investment that doesn't generate any income. As I read this, I'm starting to get angrier and angrier. Then she cites a study, 2014 study among Danish savers. Okay, so there's a red flag right there. Now, unfortunately, most of what I know about Denmark, I learned from watching Rita on Netflix, so I can't admit to know much about Denmark or the Danish people. But I actually looked this up because people in Denmark and Americans, it's not a good apples to apples comparison. And I was looking up Danish financial culture and how they view money. And in Denmark, 70% of Danish people are financially literate, which means they understand the basic financial topics and they appreciate the benefits of saving and setting money aside and spending less than you make and having some long-term savings and things like that. So that's a very different culture than the United States, where 70% of Americans, the opposite, are financially illiterate. So in Denmark, 70% of the Danish people are financially literate. In the United States, it's the opposite. Only about 30% of Americans know the basics about investing and how debt works and what happens, what interest rates are and how that impacts you, and even what a money market is compared to a savings account compared to a CD. So that's a big problem and not a good apples to apples comparison. So what do I think? I don't know. It is an interesting assertion that the 401k has a target on its back. I don't think it's anything that I would be worried about, simply because even though there is maybe a short-term incentive for the government to claw back some of that revenue that it's giving up in the current year by offering a tax incentive, they still get to collect money down the road. And there's a lot of baby boomers who are retiring today or already retired who are paying those required minimum distributions and the associated taxes. So I don't know. It's certainly more attractive to close a 401k loophole in the tax code and not offer that anymore than raise taxes directly. But because it's so broadly benefiting so many Americans, I just don't think that there's the broad support behind that. And I personally think the 401k is here to stay, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. They might tinker with the rules and make it so that maybe higher income Americans can't save as much or things like that. That's certainly a possibility, but will they go away altogether? I don't think we're there yet. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.